So my husband and I had been married for close to a year and a half when we kind of came across some kind of I guess you could say, a hiccup. And the hiccup was a bit of a painful hiccup. And it was that each month we found out that I hadn't conceived. And it was very painful, very sensitive as well to talk about with family and friends. We we thought, within the first 2 years or even within the first year that we would just naturally conceive and fall pregnant, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. And the struggle to conceive, I guess I could say, for me wasn't as hard as other women who I have met or whose stories I've heard, but still, I clearly remember a moment where my husband and I had returned from the doctor's appointment, and both of us were very quiet, and we kind of asked, like, why, why us? And it wasn't that we were feeling sorry for ourselves, but it was just that we felt like we had done nothing wrong. We had wanted kids. We didn't smoke. We didn't drink. We led a mostly healthy life, and yet we were struggling to conceive, quickly. One of our friends, they had gotten married, and within 6 months they were pregnant. And for us, we had to, really go through the doctor's appointments and we got to the stage of considering all the treatment options. So that was a very painful period. There was, I remember clearly, a period where it was literally a month away where I was booked in for a procedure, a really expensive procedure, cost close to $1,100. And it was a procedure to check if my fallopian tubes were clear, if there were any scar tissues, if I had endometriosis or any kind of blockages in my fallopian tubes. And I remember the the examination was booked at a certain month, and then it was just literally a month or a few weeks, literally 2 weeks in advance, I guess, from that procedure that I found out that I had conceived. But the journey to, I guess, conceive naturally, there was a struggle. And fortunately for us, we didn't have to go through all the medical procedures like some couples have to go through, or the pain of miscarriage, or, trying for so many years. We only had to wait for a year and a half, but it was still quite painful. And I remember just the pressure, the constant noise, and the pressure of, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant, from family and from friends? And there was a time where even my husband's parents were like, why are you delaying kids? And it was so difficult to explain to them, we're not deliberately delaying. It's just, it's not happening. And just that pressure of constantly just trying to answer to family and trying to stay calm at the same time was incredibly difficult. So I can only imagine how hard it could be for other people who've been through much worse than I have. But I remember specifically in July, I attended a retreat. It was a youth retreat in Sydney, organised by Dormus Cordis, a Catholic youth community. And I remember at that retreat asking the priests there was two priests, and asking them to pray for me for this medical procedure, because it is quite difficult. I've heard it's difficult, and there's, with any medical procedure, there's a risk of infection, of I guess, causing more scarring, just, yeah, and like anything that could go wrong with a medical procedure, that risk applied here as well. So I asked the priest that were at the retreat to pray a blessing prayer over me and my husband, so that the medical procedure, if, that once I do go through it, that it goes well and smoothly. And I remember that both the priests, they laid their hands on me, and they I remember specifically these words: "Our help comes from God, who is the maker of heaven and earth." And I don't know why those words really kind of struck a chord within me. And I went into the retreat, and I, prayed for all the young kids there. And I just remember thinking, like, these young kids are such a big blessing. Like, just they're all a gift. And they have no idea how special and precious they are to their parents, because until then I didn't realize all the factors and variables that is involved in conceiving and carrying through a healthy pregnancy. It's not, it's not easy. It's not something that just happens like this. It's a process. It's a long process. It's, more than 9 months. It can go up to 10 months. And during that, even that journey of pregnancy, there's so many potential things that could go wrong. And, just the mere fact that those young kids were at the retreat, praising God, worshiping God, trying to have a better relationship with them, with God, and all these things kind of just went through my mind, and I cried and prayed. I just really genuinely cried and prayed, and somewhere in the back of my heart, or the back of my mind, I should say, I kind of thought, you know what, if conceiving a child is not for me, that's okay. And I kind of surrendered that to God. In that retreat, I was on my knees. I had tears. I was, just thought, you know what, if it's not for me, it's fine. It's okay. There's so many things that I can do with my life, and I just quietly accepted it in the bottom of my heart, within my soul. I quietly accepted that, you know, if it had if it was supposed to have happened, it would have happened. I would have conceived, but that's okay. And I continue to pray that whole night in front of the adoration, the blessed adoration, for the kids, the young teens at the retreat, and also for some of my friends who I knew some of the struggles that they were going through. I cried and prayed for them. And I just still remember, and it gives me goosebumps, but whilst I was praying in that dark retreat room in front of the Blessed Sacrament, just and it's still hard to explain, but I felt like I had been stomped to the ground, and I had inhaled all this dust, and it was so hot. It was burning hot, and I looked up and I could see a young man, and he just was radiating. He was incredibly handsome. He was wearing a short kind of shirt, sleeveless kind of shirt, and yeah, just radiating something that was not from this earth. And I just opened my eyes, and again, I was back to the Blessed Sacrament, and I cried even more because I think, I'm not sure what happened that retreat night to me, but I think that was Jesus. And I felt like I could have been that woman in the Bible, whose hemorrhage, whose hemorrhage for 12 years could not be cured until she touched the hem of Jesus' dress. But again, it's very hard for me to explain. I don't know, but I know in the bottom of my heart what I saw was real. And it's an experience that I'll always remember for the rest of my life. So, back to my story, I left that retreat feeling quite, you know, a quite peace that it's okay, like it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Whatever happens in my life, I accepted it. I fully accepted it. I went home, and I remember, I think it was maybe 3 weeks later that I found out that I was already carrying a baby. I think it was around, by then it must have been 8 or 9 weeks, but I didn't realize. And yeah, it's incredible. It still feels really surreal that this has happened, and it still feels yeah, it just feels really unreal. Just thinking about it now, my baby is now close to 1 month, and I can't imagine just the blessings, the way God works, the mystery of how He works. I remember when I was trying to find inspiration, when I was trying to find hope, so desperate for hope. I tried to listen to testimonies of other women, and my help was YouTube. I literally went on YouTube and I searched up infertility testimonies, and I think it was through a Divine Mercy organization back in India that there was these testimonies of women who were in their 40s, who were conceiving naturally. They had gone through so many different treatments. I remember hearing a woman who had received so many injections that increased her ovulation, and unfortunately her ovaries produced or ovulated more than once or twice, and there was fluid collection, and just so many things went wrong with the fertility treatment. But she's ended up having to give up the fertility treatment, and just similar to what I had gone through, she attended a retreat, changed her prayer life, and just naturally conceived, even though doctors said it's impossible for her to conceive, that she had reached the end of her age, that fertility age, that there was issues with her husband's health, and the chances of conceiving a child naturally was pretty much zero. And even though doctors had medically confirmed this, she went on to conceive naturally. So it really, really, really means that nothing is impossible for God, and especially if you have faith and you surrender everything to Him, it is quite possible, literally possible, for anything to happen. So in another video, I do want to kind of go through all the things I changed in my prayer life, in my diet, that I think would have helped me in this journey of becoming a mother. And I hope you found this testimony of mine helpful. At least if you believe that there is hope, and God has a beautiful, beautiful plan for you, that things will work out in His perfect timing. I think that makes me so happy if you take that away from this video. So yeah, thank you for listening.